Hey there, I'm LD Salmonson from Cherry, and it's really great to be here today and speak about one of my favorite subjects, cities. And before we begin, let's talk about what this presentation is not about. It's not going to be about Cherry. We do some really cool stuff here and you know how to find us. It's not going to be about real estate data. We're the leading experts on the subject matter, so feel free to contact me or anybody on my team separately if that's something you want to talk about. It's not even about AI and machine learning, things I'm very passionate about. We're here today to have some fun, and we're going to try to change the world while we're at it. So just a couple words about me. I've lived in cities almost my entire life, mostly really big cities, and I've moved around a lot. No place is truly home. The only prolonged period of time I've ever spent outside a city was during my time in the military. I don't really think that counts. I'm definitely the product of city thinking. I have way too many degrees, and I've always worked in enterprise environments. So maybe we should start with some confessions here, right? I really hate the word sustainability. I don't feel like I owe the universe anything. I know, it sounds really selfish, but at least I'm honest about it, right? By the way, I think most people don't. We should probably stop pretending like they do if we want to solve some real problems. I don't really need a hug to feel better either. And meeting fake ESG metrics required by my LPs, well, that really wouldn't scratch the itch I had even if I did. Most of those requirements are still very weak. When we actually care about something, we act like it. We act like we don't really care. We act like it's a game of nihilism. Or worse. We do things to make ourselves feel good. Just feel though, right? This is by far the most inefficient way to recycle. How many times have you found yourself standing in front of a product trying to figure out what its chemical makeup is? What am I, a chemist? Not to mention that in many states, half of this ends up in landfills anyway for many, many reasons, most of them economic. We don't even bother recycling most of the big stuff. Most states don't mandate recycling of industrial waste. When you think about it, if we just threw everything into one giant container and just retooled the workforce to start recycling this in massive plants, not only would we increase the recycling rates, reduce the cost of recycling at the same time, we'd actually put a lot of people to work. We create some really bad incentives. Rotterdam became a low emission zone a few years ago, charging commuters a really big fee to enter the city. I mean, honestly, it makes sense when you think about it. They want to offset the externality costs, right? But alas, the city ended the program just a few years later since they achieved their objective. A celebration, no doubt. I'm just curious what exactly they're celebrating, given the fact that Rotterdam heavily incentivizes these giant cruise ships to dock at their port. Major cruise ships pollute more than all cars combined. We often focus on things that just don't matter. Electricity and heat generation account for roughly a quarter of all greenhouse gas emissions. And while don't get me wrong, I'm a huge proponent of renewable energy sources. Renewables are just not going to meet the demand that we're predicting. We need to end our war on nuclear energy. It has risks, a lot of them, but it's a lesser of all the evils that we have. We're going to have to address some really awkward social issues. I mean it. Fake meat's just going to have to get a lot better than it is today. I know, Impossible Burger and Beyond Meat is okay. It's just not okay enough. We're going to have to tackle this problem globally, right? If there ever was a textbook example of the tragedy of the commons, this is it. We just cannot do this alone. It has to be done globally. And we can't pretend like these problems are going to solve themselves. We often do that, right? We'd like to think that technology is going to solve our problems. It won't. Driverless cars are close, but reclaiming the streets and reclaiming that real estate, that's a lot further away. And for starters, I've never really understood this slide, right? We've seen it many times. Why would autonomous vehicles reduce the number of passengers per vehicle? They won't. Cars and roads are going to be here for a really long time, with all the challenges they bring with them. And what's going on during COVID right now, we're seeing this renaissance of people buying cars. It's incredible. And thinking about COVID, do cities even matter anymore? I love cities, but are they going to be around in 20 years? Urbanization feels really recent to us in the grand scheme of things. And that's definitely true when we look at the data. But it's even more pronounced than most people imagine. And in the US, for example, almost all the growth in the 20th century can really be attributed to cities. Maybe we'll all move to Finney County, Kansas, the news is telling us. Population, 36,467. It's in West Kansas, by the way, but I know that for most of you that probably doesn't really help anyway. Kansas is here, by the way. Some states have been growing much faster than others. And when you look at that growth, all of that growth has really gone to some few cities in those states. And we see that where cities grow, economies grow. And where cities faltered, so did the economies. US cities are really A-sized governments, but they're staffed with B players. Plagued with corruption, incompetence, and processes, they're massive bureaucracies. The most worthy civil servants just subside to mediocrity. So what's the future of cities? I have no clue. I wish I knew. I said in the beginning that we act like we don't really care, so I know what we do need to do. We need to act like we do care. So let's start. Let's stop pretending that people are good. I know it's a horrible thing to say, but they're not. Let's start implementing reasonable and achievable incentive programs that don't assume that people are good, because again, they're not. Let's focus on what matters. Big problems, big solutions, big rewards. Not things that make us feel good, not things that make us smile to ourselves, things that matter, things that change the world. And let's not ignore the problem. It's not going away. We can't pretend that some magic technology solution or some other magical solution is going to come and help us. It's not. We have to solve this problem together. When we actually care about something, we act like it. And don't get me wrong, I'm a capitalist. I'm a staunch capitalist. I'm not embarrassed to say that. The reason is simple. Capitalism creates more utility for the median person than any other system we've tried, and that's a really good thing. I don't believe in sacrificing utility creation in the name of equality or communalism. Yeah, we want the Gini curve to be a little tighter. Why? Because it's bad that when people look at each other and have a sense that they can't be really mobile when it comes to social class. But we don't want to sacrifice utility creation in the name of that. That being said, we just can't pretend that opportunity is equally distributed. It's just not. Without basic building blocks of society, health, education, and social ability, we really can't compete equally. Some people are starting behind. And if you start behind, it's a lot easier to catch up, and we should stop pretending that's not the case. In Rawls's just world, the principles of justice are chosen behind the veil of ignorance. And I urge you to embrace justice with all your heart. It matters. It's a worthy cause. Thank you very much for spending some time with me here today. I hope you had some fun. Please try and change the world. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.